These are my top 10 absolute favorite classical composers. Coming in number 10, we have the great Franz Schubert. And my favorite piece by Schubert is the Big B-flat Piano Sonata. Obviously, Schubert has so many other great compositions, from sonatas to impromptus, musicales. Amazing that he lived a short 38 years. One of the great question marks in music is what would have happened if he would have had a longer life. But even in those short years, he already makes it into a top 10 list of composers of all time. Such an amazing composer. Up next at number 9 is Franz Liszt. And here's the deal. If you love Liszt, you're upset because I didn't rank him way higher, or you hate Liszt and he's not even in your top 30 composers and you think he's trash. So I feel like not a lot of people are like me who like Liszt. I don't think he's top 3 for me, but I think he's a very good composer. He's definitely a top 10. If you haven't heard La Campanella before, it is an amazing piece. I also really encourage you to check out my personal favorite piece by him, which is his Tarantella. I loved it so much. I learned it and played it, performed it. At number 8, barely above Franz Liszt, and this is kind of a tough one for me. I could definitely see flip-flopping these two on any given day, is Robert Schumann. If you haven't listened to a lot of Robert Schumann's music before, it also has just a lot of fun to it. He also has a whole bunch of intermediate music, so he's a composer that we get to give to people as they're learning piano much earlier on than many other composers. Now, even though the next composer is only one spot above that at number 7, in my mind, there's a pretty significant jump to my 5, 6, and 7 spot. In fact, these spots are somewhat interchangeable. It's really hard for me to make a decision. I have at number 7, the great Rachmaninoff. And it really hurts me to put him at number 7. I really want to put him at 5, but that would mean the one at 5 has to drop to 6. And 6 to 7. There's really not a good way of putting this jigsaw puzzle together of the best composers ever, because there's so many great composers trying to squeeze them down, choose just the best of the best. So this is just a celebration of these awesome composers. One of the things I love about Rachmaninoff is his ability to build and build and build. And instead of just doing what we expect, which is you build and you get to a bunch of really fast notes and play piano like crazy, is he can build and kind of break it down into a new texture at the peak of the crescendo, like this. Coming in at number 6 is another one that I expect to get a lot of pushback from everyone, and that's because I love Haydn. I think Haydn is an amazing, delightful composer. No composer makes me as consistently happy as listening to Haydn. Also cool to see the progression. You can play Haydn and get to experience music back in the 1760s, how that felt. Very early classical, very baby classical. It's not developed, it's not big, it's not giant forms yet. And you can develop all the way to some of his late sonatas, which are obviously a lot more epic. It's one of my top composers that I can just open the book and play for fun, which is another factor because lots of his pieces aren't so hard that you can't get them pretty quickly. So it is a part I can just open up a book by Haydn, play some Haydn sonatas for fun, de-stress or whatever. I just love Haydn. I know not a lot of you love Haydn. You're going to disagree with this pick, but I love Haydn. Now, coming in right above Haydn, I have a composer who's considered by many to be the greatest of all time. I would agree with you in the sense that he is one of the greatest of all time. He's my number 5. I think he's incredible, and that's Mozart. Now, interestingly enough, if you would ask me to do this top 10 list several years ago, I would have had Haydn in front, higher up. But over the years, Mozart's brilliance has worn me down in a good way. any piece he writes is great. I actually did a tier list of all of his piano sonatas. They're all good. In fact, I didn't even put the bottom tier list of that video as bad. I just called it like still a good piece because I think everything Mozart writes is good, which is incredible. And then the guy wrote a couple like concertos and pieces for strings and orchestra and stuff like that too. But you know, it was pretty good. Now we have arrived at the most difficult part of my entire list, and that is no joke. My number 2, 3, and 4, I can't decide. They are literally interchangeable. I actually considered not even assigning them a number, just saying 2, 3, 4. I know who my number 1 is, but 2, 3, and 4, I all love. I all want them to be number 2 for different reasons. I actually, on any day, you could ask me, what is this composer? And I would say they're my second favorite composer. If you ask me the other one the next week, I'd probably say, yeah, it's my second favorite composer. They all are my second favorite composer. I don't want to rank them. But because you did click on the video, and I promised to tell you my favorite composers, at number 4, I have Johannes Brahms. And I love Brahms. I'm saying he's my 4th favorite composer ever. It does hurt me a little bit not to have him number 2. I think he is incredible. Brahms did so much good. There is like Handel variations, Paganini variations, the sonatas, the concertos, and that's not even counting all the shorter pieces he wrote later in his life. I just love how Brahms is so careful at crafting a piece. I think there's just a level of dedication when you play a Brahms piece where everything falls into place, and it's going to be a great experience to learn, great experience to listen to. Obviously, I think he's my 4th favorite composer ever, so love Brahms. At number 3, I have one of the most amazing, brilliant composers to ever walk the planet, and that is J.S. Bach. I could give so many reasons why Bach deserves a spot. I mean, I love the fugues. I love fugues in general, so Bach wrote tons of fugues, and I think almost all of them are amazing. Obviously, the inventions and other contrapuntal pieces, but I also love like improvisational sounding Bach, like the preludes and the toccatas and the fantasy. But on top of being incredible, there's also just a ton of it. His output is so high, you could just study Bach your whole life and probably not play everything he wrote. Has anyone ever played everything that Bach wrote for like keyboard, like organ, harpsichord and all that? Like, I don't think it's ever been done, right? Coming in at number 2, it's a pick that will make many of you instrumentalists who play something other than piano vomit, maybe pass out. I suggest you sit down, take a deep breath. Remember, these are my favorite composers, and I've committed 20 years of my life to this thing right here. Frédéric Chopin is one of the greatest pianists to ever walk the planet. Not only did Chopin write beautiful melodies, do things with the piano that had never been done before, and really never done since. He wrote tons of pieces, and they are so consistently high quality. He's not a composer who's just putting out soloistic, virtuosic piano music, and lots of it's not good. There's so much music, and it's so good. And just so you know, if you're not a pianist yourself, I totally understand why Chopin would not make your top 10. Like, he didn't really do a lot for other instruments, but for the piano, he wrote like sonatas, concertos, mazurkas, polonaises, waltzes, tons of preludes, tons of etudes, tons of nocturnes, the ballades, the scherzos, the impromptus. I'm sure there's more things I'm not thinking off the top of my head, but if you realize the incredible volume of pieces he put out for the piano, how amazing practically all of them are, you'll just start to appreciate that, like, yes, we love Chopin because he's like our guy. These are in no particular order. One of them is Edvard Grieg. I think Grieg is an amazing composer. I think when he writes melodies, he does it almost as well as anyone else. I also just recognize he didn't contribute probably near enough great pieces to be considered for my top 10. Also, Bartok, for many of the same reasons. There are some pieces I really like by him, many I really don't like. And also Claude Debussy, which probably doesn't need much explanation. Debussy's a great composer. He's just not quite enough to overtake Schubert for that number 10 spot. So he's an example of someone that I really thought when I made this list, well, yeah, Debussy's going to be there. But I couldn't take out Schubert. I couldn't take out Liszt. I couldn't take out Schumann. So Debussy barely missed the cut. You probably already have figured out my number one by process of elimination, or you've watched my channel before in the past. But my favorite composer by far of all time is Beethoven. Practically, if Beethoven wrote it, I'm going to love it. Almost all the sonatas I think are just incredible, massive, amazing pieces. They are pretty much all worth studying, all worth performing. Even the ones that are not even in the top 2/3, the bottom third of sonatas that get played are almost all still really, really, really good pieces. And he has the amazing concertos, the trio genre, and obviously the symphonies, and there's violin sonatas. He did so much stuff, such a wide scope, but while having a wide scope, he put out just an incredible amount of amazing piano music at the same time. So Beethoven sits at the top. Right behind him, Bach, Brahms, Chopin, kind of in some order in the 2, 3, and 4 spot. Haydn, Mozart, Rachmaninoff, somewhere in the next 3, I think are all incredible. And then the list rounds out with Schumann, Liszt, and Schubert. Let me know down in the comments below who are your favorite composers, maybe where you disagree with the list, or maybe just your personal preference. Maybe you like later music than me. Maybe you like some older music than me. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for checking out the video. Hope you see you guys in the next one.